Alright guys, WIndham Weaponry mud test. Got a magazine in it, chamber's clear. We taped the muzzle. We want to test the gun. I don't want to test myself. So to keep it safe, we taped the muzzle up, got the dust cover closed. We're going to throw it in the mud. Now we'll cover it up.
There's nothing nice about Louisiana mud. It's thick, it's nasty, it sticks to everything, and if you're downwind from it, you might get a nice little pungent stench off of it. Louisiana mud, gumbo mud. We let this WIndham Weaponry MPC AR-15 sit in this Louisiana gumbo mud for a good while before we went over to rescue it. All right guys, we're ready to uncover this thing. We're gonna pull it out of there, make sure we don't have any mud in the barrel, and we're going to give it a shot. Todd, you want to see what we can get out of here?
Let's work with it, Paul. It looks kind of nasty.
I sure would hate to hurt this thing.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, that must be it right there. There it is. There we go. Nice.
Chamber around. One hang up.
Well, it was the first of many. We went to our super duper crazy ninja slow-mo to see if we could get a better or at least slower look at what was happening with the cycling of this rifle. At first, things seemed to be working just fine. The mud did not seem to be affecting any of the rounds, whether ejecting the spent casing or the new round making its way into the throat of the barrel. It was beginning to look like the duct tape that we had put over the tip of the barrel, for safety reasons of course, along with the magazine being kept in the mag well and the dust cover being closed, had actually done the job. These rounds were being ripped off with no problem. That's 3 so far with absolutely no problem of ejection or feeding of the new round into the throat of the barrel. That is 4 perfectly fired rounds. Looks like we're not going to have many problems with this rifle after all. It appears the Louisiana mud is not that big of a deal. Maybe we overplayed this thing. We sure thought that bolt was going to have more trouble than this cycling backwards with all this mud encased around it. But the dirtier it got, this thing just continued to fire. Did not appear to have any problems. Then it did. Bolt stayed back, did not strip the next round, and if you notice, it's not in the full rearward position. This thing stopped before it went all the way back into the buffer tube. But we were going to get this thing going again.
Jam.
Most of these misfeeds were a classic case of bolt over base malfunctions. A bolt over base malfunction is when the bolt does not go back far enough to clear the round coming up from the magazine from beneath, and basically blocks the round from being stripped and going into the throat of the barrel. In many of these cases, the bolt just jammed rearward and never went forward anyway, but it still didn't go back far enough to allow a round to come up. It was blocking it from the top side. After those first 6 shots were fired, clearly mud had made its way back around and behind the bolt, and most likely into the buffer tube. This was slowing down any legitimate cycling of the bolt going rearward and impacting the buffer tube.
Yeah, it's pretty gritty.
We decided to go ahead and finish out this 30-round magazine with, of course, more of the same. And then we were going to give this thing a mini ditch bath and then go at it again.
She's empty.
You can even hear the dirty metal parts moving against one another.
So what do you, the second or third one, it ran 2 or 3 through, right?
I got about, I think 3 rounds through it, and then started hanging up. After that, it was pretty much a single shot. But that's some nasty crap.
Tell you what, let's wash this thing off real quick, and I say wash it off. We'll run it through some water, and then we'll slap another mag through it and see what we got.
Let's do it. All right, guys, we got this thing good and muddy. We need to wash it off. Saw we had several malfunctions. It's pretty gritty in there, so looks like as good a place as any.
Kids, don't try this at home. If you ever wanted to watch a video on the proper cleaning techniques of an AR-15, this is not it.
All right, we're gonna go hot with it. New magazine, we rinsed it off in the ditch. Still feels pretty gritty. Let's see what happens.
Looks like not much has changed since our little ditch bath. And I did say ditch bath. But we were determined to make this thing work. But we were going to need a plan B. Or maybe even a plan C.
Did that one even eject?
Nope.
I know this looks like a whole lot of fun, but it was time to regroup. This was not working out.
Dude.
It's gritty. The ditch bath wasn't good enough. We tried several rounds and we effectively turned it into a single shot rifle. So we're going to run it through the water faucet, rinse it out good, and try it again.
A quick little disclaimer here for all the weekend warriors and keyboard killers out there. We realize there are no water spigots out in the deserts of Afghanistan and Iraq. However, this is Louisiana, and this is just a gun show. Our thinking was that a lot of the mud had made its way back around and behind the bolt, hence the scratching and the gritty noise whenever the bolt goes back or whenever we charge the handle. So we were trying to get some of that gritty mud out of there so that bolt could function a little more properly.
In the bush. This is Louisiana.
Man, that's not real life, man. That's not a water spigot in the Sahara Desert.
Don't really have a prediction how it's going to function, but it seems a little less gritty. Like we got some of that stuff out of there. It's still pretty tight. By no means how you normally run a rifle, but let's see what it does. Obviously the bath that we gave it didn't work, so we rinsed it off under the water faucet. We're going to try it again.
Now, one thing that's important to remember is this rifle has never been cleaned or lubricated. Again, a classic bolt-over base misfeed. By the bolt not going rearward enough, it's trapping that next round from coming up through the magazine. But it is going back just far enough for that spent casing to eject from the ejection port. And even after flushing this thing, the mud and grit inside this thing is jamming that bolt in place and not allowing it to cycle properly. Okay, we were going to get this thing working again. Time for our crack team of experts to huddle around and figure out what the problem is. And remember, folks, this is a rifle that has never been cleaned, never been lubricated, had over 1,000 rounds of steel case ammo run through it, and it's been frozen, and it's been left in a pond for a few hours. Just saying, that's all. This Wyndham rifle has been a beast, handling everything we've thrown at it. It was time to get right. Okay, that was different. That was a delayed deal.
Mm-hmm. Real sluggish going forward.
But still a positive sign. We still had a feeling things were about to shake loose. Yes! We were so happy we didn't even care that our camera was taking a beating.
Hold up, I'm gonna get you another full mag and we'll burn it up fast.
Okay.
No rest for the wicked.
So like it cleared itself out.
Cool. This one.
Another 30 rounds of steel case coming at you. Sing, baby!
Had a few little hiccups, but it's like it cleared itself out after, and seems to run fine.
Well, since it's running fine, we're not going to clean it. That's how it's going to shoot next time.
Okay.
Of course, the mud had everything to do with it, but I couldn't sleep that night wondering what it was that prevented that bolt from cycling properly. So we decided to break the gun down. Naturally, we didn't want to clean it, and of course, we're not going to lubricate it because that's part of what we're doing here. But by breaking it down, we were going to get a better look at the inside of this weapon, which had never been done before. The bolt and charging handle certainly sounded like it had never been cleaned or lubricated, but overall, it really didn't look that bad. There were, of course, some signs of a little bit heavier wear in some areas, but with the grinding that we were experiencing, shooting that rifle with all that mud in it, we were certainly not surprised to see the wear that we did see. In fact, we were actually surprised that we didn't see more wear. And remember that awful sound of the grinding noises as we engaged that charging handle? It definitely had a lot of signs of wear on top of it in an area that typically doesn't have a whole lot of wear and doesn't get a whole lot of use. And the buffer tube? Look, there's not exactly a whole lot of room in this thing for the mud and grime that was being jammed backwards into it by the bolt carrying mud rearward. Overall, this WIndham Weaponry MPC rifle looked just fine on the inside, considering no attention had ever been given to this thing from the get-go straight out of the box. It had never been cleaned, it had never been lubricated, and you know the story of the things that have happened to this rifle up to this point. We're going to put it back together dirty and unlubricated and see what it does next time out. More gun bullies coming at you soon from Legally Armed America.